You don't hear the silence at first. You feel it. It's a change in the atmospheric pressure of a room. It's the air getting heavier, thicker, like the moment before a storm breaks. You're sitting on the same couch you've had for years, the one with the dip in the middle where you always end up leaning into each other, and you realize the dip is just a hollow now. She's right there, her phone in her hand, the blue light washing over her face, and she's 1,000 miles away. The television is on, some reality show about people building houses in the desert, but the real show is the one happening in the space between you. It's a performance of normalcy, and you're the only one who doesn't have the script. You try to remember the last time you had a conversation that wasn't about what to get from the grocery store, or whether the car needs an oil change. You can't. And that's when you know, this isn't a rough patch, this is a relocation. Her heart has already started packing its bags, and the silence is the sound of boxes being taped shut in another room. You can sense the emptiness gathering, a quiet tide pulling back from the shore, and you're standing there, helpless, watching the water disappear, knowing what that always means is coming next. The fight hasn't even started, but the war is already lost. You look at her, and you see a stranger wearing the face of the woman you love, and your own heart starts to beat a little slower, a little heavier, like a drum counting down to an ending. I remember the exact moment I became an archaeologist of a dead relationship. It was a Tuesday. Tuesdays are always the most ordinary days, the days when nothing is supposed to happen. We were in the kitchen. The hum of the refrigerator was the loudest sound. I was making a coffee, and she was leaning against the counter, staring out the window at the rain. I asked her a question. Something simple. "You okay?" She didn't turn. She just gave this little shrug, a tiny physical sigh. "I'm fine." 2 words. 2 lies. I remember thinking, that's it? That's all we get now? Fine. It's the most violent word in the English language when it comes from someone who used to give you paragraphs of their soul. I wanted to grab her shoulders, to shake the truth out of her. But you can't shake a ghost. She was already half gone. Part of me knew then that I was trying to hold on to smoke. My hand tightened around the mug. The heat was almost burning my palm, but I welcomed the pain. It was something real, something I could feel. That was the battle. Not a shouting match, not a slammed door. It was a war fought in whispers and shrugs and the vast echoing quiet between "I'm fine" and the scream I knew was trapped inside both of us. I wanted to stay and fight for us, but something inside me just wanted to walk away from the chilling quiet. Every attempt I made to bridge the gap felt like throwing a stone into a well and never hearing the splash. You start to question your own voice. You start to think maybe you're the one who's going crazy. You replay every word, every gesture, looking for the landmine you must have stepped on. But there is no landmine. There's just the slow, steady erosion of your shared ground, until one day you look down and you're standing on 2 separate, drifting continents. The silence isn't empty. It's full of every single thing she's no longer saying, and the weight of all those unspoken words will crush you if you let it. I didn't understand it then, the strategic nature of that quiet, the calculated withdrawal, but I do now. The first thing you need to understand is that the silence is not a punishment. You'll think it is. You'll lie awake at night, your mind racing through a catalogue of your every mistake, every time you worked late, every time you were short with her, every forgotten anniversary. You'll tie yourself in knots trying to figure out what you did to deserve this frozen treatment. But here's what no one tells you. It's not about you, not in the way you think. Her silence isn't a weapon she's using against you. It's a shield she's building around herself. It's the emotional equivalent of packing tape and bubble wrap. She is, piece by piece, carefully packaging up her connection to you, insulating her heart for the journey away from you. When she stops talking about her day, it's because you are no longer her home for those stories. When she stops asking about yours, it's because the answer doesn't impact her world anymore. You are being mentally and emotionally downsized from a primary character to a supporting role and then to a footnote. And the scariest part? She's not doing it out of malice. She's doing it out of self-preservation. This is the moment most men never notice. The quiet transition from being her partner to being her liability. This leads to the second, harder truth. Your attempts to fix it are only making it worse. You see the distance, and your instinct, the instinct of a man who loves, who wants to protect and provide, is to close the gap. You try to talk, You buy flowers. You plan a date night. You push for answers. What's wrong? Talk to me, please. And every time you push, you're met with a wall that gets higher and thicker. You are the problem you're trying to solve. Your presence, your need for resolution, your desire to fix the broken thing between you is seen as pressure. It's seen as neediness. It's seen as a demand on her emotional energy she has already redirected inward, toward the process of leaving your love in its most proactive and desperate form becomes the very reason she needs to retreat further. It's a brutal, heartbreaking paradox. The medicine you're offering is being treated like a poison. You're trying to plug a hole in a dam that she has already decided to let break. Your efforts to reconnect are just confirming her decision that leaving is the right choice, because you just don't get it. You don't see that she doesn't want the dam fixed, she wants the flood, and right when you think it's over, it isn't. The third revelation is the death of the shared future. You'll be sitting there in the silence, and you'll remember a plan you made together, a trip to Italy you were saving for, the idea of building a porch on the back of the house, a joke about what you'd name your kids, and you'll bring it up. Hey, remember that idea we had about the porch? And she'll look at you, and her eyes will be blank. Not hurt, not angry, just blank. Like you're speaking a language she used to know but has since forgotten. That's when you realize the future you built in your head, the one you thought you were both architects of, has been demolished in hers. She's no longer investing in us, she is divesting. She is selling off the shares of your joint life, one silent evening at a time. The plans, the dreams, the inside jokes, they are all being liquidated, and you are the last one to hear about the bankruptcy. The fourth layer is the most psychologically brutal. This silence is a test you cannot pass unconsciously, and sometimes consciously. She is waiting. She is waiting for you to either become a man so perceptive, so emotionally intelligent, that you can magically understand and fix everything without her having to communicate, or for you to become the villain who confirms all her reasons for leaving by finally breaking under the strain. Most men become the villain, not because they are bad men, but because they are human. The constant rejection, the icy atmosphere, the feeling of being a stranger in your own home, it grinds you down. You get frustrated, you get angry, you might finally snap. What the hell is wrong with you? Why won't you just talk to me? And in that moment, you have given her everything she needs. See? He's the problem. He's aggressive. He's unstable. He can't handle my emotions. Your very human reaction to an unbearable situation is used as the final piece of evidence against you. It absolves her of guilt. It makes her the victim of your outburst, rather than a participant in a shared collapse. It's a checkmate you never saw coming. The final, chilling revelation is this. By the time you're reacting to the silence, she has already grieved the relationship. This is the ultimate asymmetry that destroys men. You're at the beginning of the pain, confused and fighting, while she's at the end of it, already accepting and moving on. Her emotional work is done. She did it in the quiet moments you didn't notice, staring out the car window, staying late at work, scrolling on her phone in bed. She has had the arguments with you in her head, she has cried the tears alone in the shower. She has mourned the loss of what you had, all while you were still sitting next to her on the couch, thinking you were in a rough patch. When she finally speaks the words, "I think we should break up," or "I'm not happy," it's not the start of a conversation for her. It's the reading of a verdict. It's an administrative task. You're hearing the news for the first time, but for her, it's old news. The bomb has already gone off. You're just now feeling the shockwave, and that delay, that fundamental misalignment in your emotional timelines, is what leaves men shattered and bewildered, wondering what just happened, how it could have possibly come to this. So what do you take from this? What armor do you forge in the fires of that kind of silence? You learn the most valuable lesson a man can ever learn. You cannot negotiate desire. You cannot debate someone into wanting to be with you. Her withdrawal is not a problem to be solved. It is a decision to be respected even if it destroys you. The transformation begins when you stop trying to read the silence and start listening to yourself. What are you feeling? Not in reaction to her, but in the core of your own being. You learn to value your own peace above the desperate need for a resolution from her. You build boundaries not as walls to keep people out, but as a foundation to stand on so you don't get swept away in someone else's emotional current. You realize that your value does not decrease because someone cannot see your worth. Her silence became the anvil upon which I had to rebuild my own sense of self. I had to learn that my stability could not be dependent on her vocal validation. I had to find a voice for myself that was strong enough to speak, even if the only person listening was me in the empty room she left behind. This is the inward focus. This is where you become more than what happened to you. You stop being the guy trying to decipher her every sigh, and you start being the man who knows his own worth, with or without a partner to confirm it. The call back to that hollow couch, to that heavy air, is this: the silence was never your enemy. It was your teacher. It taught you that some departures happen long before the front door closes. It taught you to pay attention to the quality of a woman's presence, not just her words. It taught you that a relationship requires two people building a future, and if one has stopped carrying bricks, the project is already over. You learn to recognize the early signs, not so you can stop the leaving, but so you can preserve your own dignity and not be the last one to know you're alone in a room with someone else. You learn to let go of what is already gone. If even one part of this felt like your life, if you've ever sat in that quiet room feeling the world you built turning to dust around you, then you and I are built from the same scars. We are brothers in that particular hurt. And the brotherhood doesn't end in the pain. It begins in the understanding that comes after. This is where you choose. You can let that silence define you, break you, make you bitter and closed off. Or you can let it refine you. You can let it burn away the need for external validation and force you to find the unshakable man within. You learn to be still. You learn to be whole by yourself. So I'll leave you with this. Picture yourself standing in that quiet room, the one with the heavy air and the distant look in her eyes, but this time you're not looking at her, begging for a clue. You're looking inward. You're breathing deeply. You're finally choosing strength over desperation. You're choosing to accept what is, rather than fighting for what was. You're turning, and you're walking toward your own future, a future you will build on your own terms, with a peace that cannot be disrupted by anyone else's silence. If this truth found a home in you, if it put words to a pain you thought was yours alone, then you know where to find more. The door is always open. Subscribe. Not because I'm asking you to, but because you know now that you're not the only one who has learned to speak the language of goodbye.